And we're back with the DreamHack Open November. Illuminar have just taken their pistol round over Gambit Esports, and after they had a bit of a sloppy start with Mirage being a one-sided affair, it seems like this is the right way to get out onto the board. Michael, yes. How are you feeling about this one?
Well, I mean, the issues for Illuminar, I think, will certainly be just consistency in the rounds that follow up, right? After you get the pistol, that's always a good way to start things off, but if it comes down to it and you're not able to get that in the rifle rounds where they really struggled on Mirage, that could be a concern, but so far, so good. Doesn't seem like they're having too many issues. And I actually think we might have just missed out on a pistol ace. I'm not really 100% sure on that one, but it seemed like the ADR was certainly up there. Doesn't seem like Gambit will get anything going. The bomb's dropped in middle. Well, Exile goes down to the last end of things as well. So Illuminar, a nice 2-0 start. I think they would have built up a bit of nice money for themselves, but now the first gun round in for Gambit, this is where things could turn around.
And now this is where we'll have to see whether or not Axel can maintain that form from the first map. He did do fantastically well then. I believe he ended up 27 kills and 9 deaths. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Now, however, PHR, he's come over to accompany Mouse, I believe, on that B-bomb side. It's a bit hard to tell when we don't have the one on the side, but it's okay, guys. Yep. We'll figure it out. I'll try to remember by number. But yes, 2 players inside, mid from the terrorist side. Snacks is waiting for them to try and aggress forward. But what we're seeing once again is that it's a slightly passive approach from the Illuminar side. Now, the player on the A side is taken down. That's Riyad's to fall. And all in the meanwhile, Snacks will try to come over, but the Molotov blocks his path. Now, he's being pincered in. A flashbang as well. And a player from behind is always deadly. But he's not actually coming through. As now we'll wait for the player on long on the CT side to try and move in and get something done. PHR in the meanwhile found Axel. The lurk is not going to work out for them, but even so, scaling onto this bomb site is so incredibly difficult.
Yeah, they had a decent amount of utility in the ball from Snacks as well, but Veggie actually springing in before that utility sails through. Shiro on the bomb site, trying to hold things down, prevent them from crossing safely, but Snacks pushing forward. So far, so good for Illuminar with the trades. They're available, and it's only PHR on low HP. He was the one that took that early fight towards the tunnel, so he's late to the party, and Illuminar do not have the time to get it done. Gambit will win that first gun round. It's a collapse on that A site. The sharp entry from Hobbit makes all of the difference.
And now Illuminar, they're going to have their money really stiffly locked. They probably will go for a forced spy around there. Ruben, can we go check out the CT side money very quickly?
I can point that out for you if you like.
Okay, I think you'll have to do that.
Yeah, they've got a Deagle, 3 rifles, and an AWP. So, you know, they've got enough coming into it. They're a bit skimped out on utility, so they've only got a few smokes. They're actually using a lot of their utility very early on for this fight for long, but Snacks finds a kill, so I guess that's all worth it. I think the T-side money was actually a little worse for wear. Shiro had a scout in his hands, but he's now moving into recovering AK over at the long doors instead.
Nafany backs off right in time. Snacks, though, he's just moving in. Maybe he can find something. Tries to flick, but can't find it. T-side will not have their disadvantage extended any further. Smoke goes out, but Riyad's makes me second guess myself. Finds one, but traded away. Shiro gets one and a second somehow. Comes through with this, with a very quick adjustment and makes it work.
Yeah, and immediately moves to take space away. It put the bomb a little further back just so he could make sure that it was a safe entry for Gambit. And Illuminar, they are posturing up as if they want to contest for that. See if Gambit will give them any of these easier entries coming into the site. See if they can find an advantage in their favor. Miles needs to find himself a gun, and there should be one in his path, but it might just be a little too far out. Might not be in the safest of spots. Never mind, an AK picked up. But one of the issues is going to be that they don't have any kits on this Illuminar side, so the fact that they didn't get anything initially, just going to go to save instead.
PHR is moving forward. Shiro locked inside the long room, but it doesn't look like he'll be taking much of a contest in the meanwhile. So guys, quick heads up to everyone in the chat. We are aware of this slight issues coming up. Of course, we'll We'll try to adjust for it. We'll switch some of the constants to GoTV and try to communicate slightly differently. We'll walk you through everything. I'm just jumping into GoTV right now as well. Michael's already in it, so Michael's going to take you through this buy and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I've had it. I think we've got it communicated over that we may be going to restart very soon, just to make sure that our system is everything running. Just because it's a little hard to keep track, you know, we can try and radio cast it effectively for you, but it's and it should be a quick break, hopefully, just to try and fix out all the issues. It's day one, so these things naturally happen.
Well, listen, we were talking about a quick break, but we'd rather show ourselves instead, Michael, because I got a new camera. But no, more importantly, we've actually got ourselves a interesting situation to get, because already what we've seen, which is somewhat reassuring, is that the CT side are willing to get slightly more aggressive. They're still not coming out, you know, completely in-your-face aggression like we sometimes saw from them in Deagle rounds on Mirage, but instead it's more measured. They're willing to take duels early, and that is one of the advantages that Dust 2 offers, unlike Mirage, that the CT side can actually take some engagements without having to commit very heavily inside a particular area. So I'm guessing that the rotation heavy style can be a little bit more effective because of it, but later on we're going to have to see whether or not they can protect the extremities of the map playing the way that they are right now.
Yeah, I think one of the problems that we're already starting to see arise is that short pressure is something that has either gone in the favor of Illuminar or against them. We've seen some good entries from Shiro. We had them from Hobbit as well when they've collapsed on that A site. So even I think even if you're guarding those extremities, I think if you're Illuminar and you're not really punishing the fact that Gambit aren't setting up in a very spread default to make sure that there's no aggression towards long or the tunnels, then if you're Illuminar, you should be able to capitalize on that in some regards and maybe actually explore those extremities a bit further. So I think there's certainly chances, there's the opportunities there for Illuminar to overturn this. Just as an update as well, there is a technical pause actually called by Gambit at the moment, so we're not missing any of the action. We're still 2-2 apiece, so you know, we're sorting things out on both ends.
So what you're saying is it's not just our fault, it's the players as well. Yes!
I mean that's the real reason. It's always the players.
Yeah, it's always the players. Why have you got to be like this? Can't you just check your mouse and your team speed before you come on here? Damn it, guys. It's not like us. We always have everything under lock and key. That's my best conspiratorial link, Michael. I'm sorry. I had to plug it in there somewhere. You know me. But one thing I do know is that I love it when I see Shiro being willing to get aggressive with an AK, get a kill, and then get another one. Because that speaks to me that, okay, if I'm doing this with an AK, wait till I have an AWP. That's where I'm really going to be taking it to you. And you know what? We're going back to the game in just a second as well. So don't you worry about a thing, as we'll be back into it in a hop, skip, and a jump.
Yeah, and the players have just rejoined the server as well, so I mean, this seems like perfect timing, really. And so we do look at some of the monetary decisions that lie ahead. Of course, with the AWP saved over from Snacks, the PHR and Mouse as well, saving weapons over. They could feasibly reinvest into the round. That is always a possibility, but it'll be a difficult one if they decide to go that route. I expect that they'll play a bit more conservative considering they have a gun round to follow up. But I mean, that's entirely a stylistic thing. I think a lot of the sort of up and coming tier 2 teams and even sort of regional teams are starting to make more of those moves to be more conservative. I think it works in the long run better when you think you are the better team. It just depends whether Illuminar think that they're the better team or not.
Well, after the previous map, I'd be surprised if they do, to be perfectly honest. But we're going to be back into the game as a resume has been called. We said, let's go back to it. Let's go for a throwback. El Clasico, the good old-fashioned HUD that you see, that I see, that we all see. And we are live with it. So Illuminar, they'll be coming in here with a bit of a, well, few scramble to get the rifles from the previous round. But
yeah, they didn't really invest. That's good. Yeah, so they go that conservative route. They try and just hold on to what little they brought into the round. But that still stacks on AWP. He has really been a catalyzing force at times. But again, it's a slightly different setup here for Illuminar. They're exploring towards short. They're trying to take space in that regard. But Gambit have made their way through middle. They're looking to collapse on B very quickly. Snack's already chiming in with the AWP. But it's actually Reese holding from behind that catches them out. Hobbit does bail them out of a sticky situation, though. A man advantage that was no longer held here for Illuminar, but they find it right back. And that B push is shut down very quickly. Gambit instead go over towards A.
And then this did pay off well once on Mirage, but it all comes down to whether Axel and Shiro can hit those shots. Shiro is the one with the bomb, so he can't guard the planter with his AWP. Slightly ineffective, but it will not be punished. Now, Illumina, they've split up and they're coming in from one aside. The problem is, Gambit have gone for the exact opposite approach. They're flashing Axel forward to take control over short. They hear the bullets. Axel pushing in will find it. Now Shiro, all he has to do is defend from long, and PHR as he moves forward will look for the first, but aim punch is too much. And Axel finishes it off. And this is where I have to say, Michael, where you say it's all about, hey, are we the better team? Are we not the better team? I don't think Illuminar is a better team. You have to go for risks in this situation. And as close as this got, I'm always going to be thinking in the back of my head, what if they had a deagle? What if they had a few more pieces of Kevlar? What if they had a bit more utility? Maybe that could have been a round where Gambit's money is stomped down on, their momentum is brought to a stop, and right now Hobbit is as well. Mauzo, as he gets one, is being given a chance to retreat and get a bit more firepower in, but Riyadh takes down Inters, who was waiting in the smoke, and already down to a 2v5.
Yeah, fantastic long control here from Illuminar. They find 3 kills without really sustaining any damage or pressure their direction. They are skimped out on utility. They are missing out on kits, but if they don't get to the bomb site, that's no problem. Nafany, good entry towards the site, but there's still a couple more players they'll have to deal with. Nafany doubling up. Okay, this could be a very sticky situation here for Illuminar. They're trickling in, finding these one-on-one duels, and Gambit, they'll get the plant. A 2-on-3 that is certainly feasible.
Very little utility as well as CT side, and Nafany had a one-way, but it works against him. Shiro now left, and he's got the 2, looking for 3, makes it so close, but PHR will be able to find the kill through that crate, and that is inexcusable from the CT side. Not only do you let them get a bomb plant after you're up 5 versus 2, you bring it down to a 1v1, and I said it before, Michael. I have to say it again. Nafany in clutch rounds, Nafany in difficult situations. This guy's got the calmest, coolest head on his body ever. This is so impressive for a younger player.
Yeah, that is really scary for Illuminar. They start out so well. The Nafany answers the double. Shiro almost comes in clutch, but it's actually a pre-fire from PHR. That's the reason they win it. Oh, Snacks, the duel down middle. Shiro bobbing and weaving. A little bit of whack-a-mole action that Snacks is not prepared for. He didn't have the mallet. So Illuminar.
Is he gonna get it? Nafany's big four. They're teasing
right
us.
The
They're
corner,
teasing us. The Tech 9 shows itself. Nafany beats it. Inters will find the kill. Shiro to make it 2, and now it's a 4v2. And Gambit have been slightly better at cleaning up their plate than Illuminar has. They don't let the fungus grow into a unstoppable monster, but Veggie, he's waiting for them to come through. 1:10 on the clock. Veggie waiting, doesn't want to reveal himself, and now as he pops out, he's only good for 1. PHR with 24 HP, a nade in his pocket, and a prayer in his head, can only really look to back off.
Yeah, may even been denied that. Inter's trying to shoot at the feet. Down to 2 HP, and PHR may get a taste of defeat in that round. Shiro, headshot, and a 4th for Gambit. No real sign of things slowing down. Gambit got those 3 rounds in a row. Sure, it comes down close in the previous round, but much more collected decision-making for Gambit. Actually, just moving, I think, more in a pack. We've seen them split up and try and go for some of these lurk plays, but trading a bit more efficiently. It, of course, all started out with Shiro on the AWP. And Illuminar need to take a step back. It's just pistols for round number 8.
Well, Illuminar, they might need to take a step back right now, but they've been locked down. That's a problem, Michael. Now's sure is good for 1, but that stack doesn't work out for anything. This isn't looking good.
Yeah.
Illuminar don't even have enough money to be able to fully buy up on most of these players. Sure, they'll have M4s and some utility, but look at where the Molotovs are. You know where they are? They're still at the shop because you don't have money to be able to buy them.
You can't afford my wares.
Why does a shopkeeper sound like a final boss from Skyrim, Michael?
I don't know. Why does he sell Molotovs and not magic potions? Who knows? But maybe Illuminar need a little bit of magic. The boost on short, this could be a difference maker that Gambit aren't really prepared for. They're not peeking, not showing as of yet. Maybe lining up a flash as well. Yeah, Snacks pushed off of the angle as a result of the utility. And so that play that Illuminar wanted to go for, dealt with just by the single bit.
But the Illuminar do still have 3 players playing from ramp. They're not heavily committed towards A long and protecting it. Instead, they're just going for a retake setup where they can get some sight lines established. Unfortunately, this might not work out too well in their favor. That's a new way to throw the one-way smoke. Interesting. Hobbit chucks that one out, but now it's all about the defense of the A bomb side. Or is it? B is the destination potentially, as they've gone straight to mid. The CTs are not anywhere to be able to rotate, and with the player coming down to the CT, they know it's all about this B pin. So PHR has to step up because Mouse has stepped down from the plate. PHR sees but cannot believe that Axel has got that shot already. A 5v3, and that is a sign for a save.
Yeah, you can see the way that Illuminar are posturing up in the same way that we saw it on Mirage, where they had to go for these long-winded rotations. It's the fact that they rely so heavily on their anchor players to find some level of success. I think that's what really we came away with Mirage kind of saying. There were a lot of missed opportunities, some missed shots from Illuminar, and that unfortunately cannot be the case on these maps where site collapses are so rapid. Even holding onto these weapons is going to be a bit of a strenuous task because Gambit can actually throw bodies at the problem because they have money to spare. So Snacks holding onto this AWP, it's not looking likely.
Especially not with that flashbang coming in. He's forced to peek back, and there's another one. He misses a shot. That is criminal, and he's about to get a sentence, but he's been able to get out of jail. Well, okay, Snacks. That's one way to do it. Prison Break took 8 seasons. He took 1 round.
I don't think they're out of the woods yet. They've gone through one fence, and there's another fence a couple miles out. They don't have wire cutters.
Well, guess they're going to hope that Gambit Esports doesn't have electricity.
Oh, God. Oh, yeah. That would be a shock.
Hey.
We'll step away from that now.
Are we really going to?
They've gone for a bit of a stack. They had as well Snacks trying to look for an opening pick on the AWP, which will not be given. He's of course set up towards the B bomb site. So it's just pistols that really stand in Gambit's way as they set up instead for long. And well, I mean, Snacks doesn't really seem to be moving about the map in a way that leads me to believe they really want to fight for this one instead of trying to preserve that. See if they can turn some pistols, but Axel getting the first kill, Hobbit another one through the smoke. So now the priority should just be get down Mr. President, save Snacks from this situation.
Well, Gambit isn't really in the best of positions to go hunting yet. They aren't going to egregiously run out and try to take deals, but that's also because they realize hey, it's just an AWP at the end of the day. And one thing that is for certain is Snacks has not been able to put it to very good use in this map so far. We haven't seen any sort of aggressive short play. We haven't seen any sort of aggressive play towards B, potentially, where you're using the AWP and a rifle in conjuncture to be able to kind of get a bit more control. So when you're playing this incredibly, I'd say, static AWPing style down from mid, where the only contest you're taking is if Gambit's taking mid control, well, you're going to be in a bit of a hard spot to properly utilize the weapon.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned the B push because that's what they wanted to do for this round, but we need to see it in a rifle round, I think, is the big thing, right? Just so you can more comfortably make those rotations. You're absolutely
yeah, I
right.
mean, how many times did we see down in Mirage where they go for a push on a deagle round instead of
I think the few times we actually saw it was from Mouse on the secondary AWP instead of Snacks, so...
Yeah. We'll have to wait to see, though, now.
Yeah, can they even get themselves into a position where they can feel comfortable getting a double AWP? Because the more we go into this, Gambit are running away with the game. 3-7, timeout called by Illuminar. And actually they do. They buy into that secondary AWP. It's on PHR, though. Actually, I think PHR is more typically the secondary AWP, if
I think Mouse just
if my
picked it up
memory's
from
not
Mirage.
mistaken. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. But with that being said, we'll have to wait to see how he wants to use it, because it looks like he will be at least on the B bomb site. But Nafany seems too easy. He knows all. Nafany knows all. This is what happens when you give an in-game leader who's very individually skilled the ability to not be an in-game leader anymore. He just knows everything about himself and everything around him. He's the all-knowing, all-seeing eye. But will not find a kill just quite yet. Knowledge does not equal to power in this particular scenario, but Gambit Esports might be looking to exert some regardless. Illuminar's got some space over towards the long doors. Still can't really aggress beyond that. Don't feel comfortable trying to circle around the short area where they know Gambit have assaulted them time and time again. And with a minute left on the clock, that assault is coming yet again. A Molotov, a nade will all go out, but no damage dealt, and a flashbang will force Snacks off the angle. They're moving up with the bomb. Snacks needs to land the shot, will get it. Nafany goes down.
Yeah, much better success this time around from Snacks. Again, it's these passive angles, but getting one on the cross was so close. Man up, but Hobbit responds. Just holding around the edge of the smoke as they rotate through CT. Not expected so far for Illuminar, so now into equal numbers. Hobbit still in this troublesome position that they cannot flush him out of. It has to be Hobbit to take this peak, to maybe lose the fight, but Hobbit getting one, a second as well. He's found 3 frags in the round, but it now comes down to Axile. Old, reliable for the side so far, and the flank is deadly. Snacks taken out from behind. Veggie could get himself onto the bomb, but instead taking the fight. Axile's unexpected, and Illuminar, they'll get a 4th.
Really good decision making coming out from Veggie over there. Axel wanted to get a high vantage point from on top of the car, where if Veggie stands up next to the bomb, he'll be able to get a sightline on it slightly more easily. But Veggie instead takes a wide swing from Goose and makes the 1v1 work. Still, Hobbit makes it incredibly expensive for the Illuminar side, and with Veggie only being able to save 1 weapon in a round where they picked up double AWPs, this is going to be a little bit touchy. Now, they do still have the full buy coming in, don't get me wrong, but utility slightly dry, and Riats is the one who will be the testy. But we'll still have to wait to see. Illuminar, I like what we saw from them a little bit, in the sense that at least they get some long control, at least they establish what Snacks has to do, and Snacks is willing to re-peek out a few times. So that's one small sign of life, at the very least, that could grow into slightly more.
Yeah, the problem, like you said, is the fact that they win that with the double AWP. Coming down to 1 player is not sustainable. I don't know that they're in the best position to really deal with what Gambit have to offer. This play, it's in towards the B site. Hobbit taking down through middle, but the execute already underway.
Axile's in, he's got another, but in a 2v3, it's all about Gambit and Axile. He's been brought down. Snacks was covering his back. Shiro left alone, 1 versus 3. He was very close in the clutch before. This is an awkward place to plant the bomb, but it gives him a lot more sight lines. Now waits with the Molotov as well. Needs to pick off the tunnels player, and he knows it. Gets a slightly safer angle, but as he's working it, there's a man on top, and it's Veggie to take him down. Once again, the one to deliver the finishing blow. Illuminar, much more convincing this time over. I didn't even know you could plant the bomb over there.
I thought it was just gonna magnetize to the lower ground, but yeah, that feels like a legacy plant as well. I thought they
exactly.
got rid of that one. Oh, shows what we know. Anyway, exactly. 5th round for Illuminar. Really doing a much better job, I think, of recognizing some of the more forward angles they need to take. They're playing it very individually in that regard. Like, there's nobody helping for the fight in through middle to take down Hobbit. But at the very least, they're winning those duels, and so the results are there. Veggie flashed up over long. It's a very heavy long control take here from Gambit, and Reese wants to fight for this instead. And he goes down to low HP, but he's able to get away.
Yes, he is, but at the same time, so much utility used by the CT side and the Terror side both. So the rest of this round will come down to either good calls and good gambles, which is what seems to be taken from Illuminar. I'll hold my thought though. Snacks will see the player lands a shot, but it's through a wall. Shiro will connect, but Snacks re-peeks out. That's what you want to see. They have a Molotov to try and flush him out, but it's on Shiro, so he's feeling very worried about actually deploying it and scoping out with the AWP. Interzone, meanwhile, keeps Snacks locked in to that corner, And Gambit is happy to rotate. It's a 3v3, and they know that the CTs are generally quick to pull the trigger on bringing players back, and they're going through T-spawn. There's no way to get information of it. There's no one on mid for the CT side. And Mouse, now he's starting to feel wary.
Yeah, such a difficult position to be in if you're Illuminar. You've been getting pounded on some of these sites, and now that you rotate in, Gambit cut sound, cut sight lines. Shearer could have really been the gatekeeper. I don't think they've really realized that B side is as open as they're pushing through lower dark, and Mal's actually going 1-for-1 in the exchange. That should signal the alarm here for Illuminar. They start to rotate instead towards B, but oh no, they're circumnavigating. They're going through short instead, and Snacks is primed with the AWP, but gonna get Molotovs out of position. So this is a plant here for Gambit.
At least it should be. Snacks, if he had a bit more HP, if he hadn't been tagged up earlier on, he could have gone through the flames, but now he has to go in. There it goes. Gambit. Oh, Snacks is going for the jump shot. He goes for the spot, but can't get away with that. Is punished. Inter strikes him down, and I have to say, Gambit might be outplaying themselves just a little bit in a few of these rounds at this point.
Yeah, Shearer was holding that mid-cross, and then they start to almost second-guess it.
Yeah, also, just coming back down to lower tunnels is such an interesting decision to make at that stage, to go back to the A site potentially. It ends up working out for them, but a 1-for-1 trade over there, I mean, Mouse could have got 2 very easily when you're coming down a choke point like LT.
Yeah, it was really, really awkward. Just the fact as well that if Snacks had found a kill from that sort of elevated position towards CT spawn on the AWP, that could have been a difference maker as well, because time became such a crucial part of Gambit getting that bomb planted. So I think it was about 10, 12 seconds. That bomb changing hands could have made all the difference. But instead, Gambit managed to weasel their way out of another round. We've seen some really late round decision making from them. We saw it on Mirage as well. They try to make
it's a bit reminiscent of the old school major winning Gambit as well. Just a little bit. It was very classic Zeus style back in the day. Flashbang comes in for now, though. Snacks has been once again relegated to the similar passive position, and now relegated down to the ground. Veggie waits with an MP9, but he can't wait long enough, as he will be taken down. 5 versus 3. Utility is not there. Just a smoke, just a kit, and Illuminar. They have to save. They don't have money in the next round. They have to save, and they're not being allowed it.
Yeah, trying to hunt these players down. There's a decent amount of money available on a couple players. Gambit can't really bleed out too heavily. But now that, seeing as how we're approaching that last round of the half, willing to throw a bit more of those investments away. Make it so that Illuminar have no saving grace, no surprises in the follow-up rounds. But I think PHR is fast-footed his way far enough that Gambit shouldn't be able to track him down, and so these rifles can be saved. Now the question I think becomes, where do you position these if you're Illuminar to try and be as disruptive as possible? It almost feels like it has to be catwalk or short, but that's where Gambit have really been focusing a lot of their sort of nade set protocols to make sure that doesn't happen to them.
I feel like we need to see something that Sprout actually does a lot, which is where the CT just push up mid from catwalk after boosting up. Dennis loves to do that, and you have to throw a disruption in Gambit's plans. Illuminar has made it very clear they're not willing to push anywhere close to aggressively into the B bomb site itself, or going up through long. The only times they've shown any tendencies to maybe even try and be aggressive is, like you said, on a short or catwalk where the protocols overwhelm them. The only way you can get past the protocols, though, is if you get past the maze, and you have to go very quickly up short for that. We'll have to wait to see what they actually end up doing, though. I am definitely concerned, however. A 5-10 scoreline is not a good way to start things.
Yeah, of course, this map does always lean towards T-side favor, so you have to bear that in mind, but yeah, so much emphasis put on CT sides. Illuminar, they're trying to crunch through the upper tunnels. Hobbit finding a kill, but there's Reeds finally showing their hand from the lower tunnels. So Gambit getting shut down towards the B side may actually start to accelerate things as they recognize where these players are, but they're getting caught in transition. Shiro going 1-for-1 in the affair. The bomb may get caught in transit, but actually getting found out. Shiro brings it to the one-on-one. It's an AWP versus the scout here from Snacks. Shiro not fancying his chances, switches to the AK instead, and he's been tagged up. He could find his way to the B side. That's always a possibility, but then he loses track of where Snacks is, so concerned about the rotation. Now it becomes a bit of a mind game.
He's gone to A. He's used that smoke perfectly. He's even got a Molotov. Snacks, he can be completely blocked out once a bomb is planted. If the molly goes down towards short, Snacks can't do anything. And Shiro, again, gets the vertical bomb plant. This is massive. Snacks will have to contend with him at long range with an AK-47 as well, and Snacks doesn't know where to go from. He's gone in through mid over to CT spawn. Shiro's trying to get some sort of audio cue, and as Snacks makes his way over, he's going to realize where the bomb is planted and realize, what do I even do? There's flashbangs as well. Shiro's positioned himself perfectly. It's not in pit where the flashbangs aren't as effective. So when he throws those out, Snacks is caught out. This is so well played. Shiro's making this 1v1 a masterclass of clutching. Oh my god, that's 10-5 and we're off to a break so we can process what just happened.
Letting go of this feeling in my life. Every day shines anew, the bright light of your love. It's a wonderful, oh wonderful world. It's a wonderful, oh wonderful world. Hey, whoa, hey, la 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 la. Hey, oh. Sunshine, you're my whole life. You're the one that makes things right. You're my sunshine, you're my whole life. You're the one that makes things right. You're my sunshine, you're my whole life. You're the one that makes things right. You're my sunshine, you're my whole life. You're the one that makes things right. I'm never letting go of this feeling in my life. Every day shines anew, the bright light of your love. It's a wonderful, oh wonderful world. It's a wonderful, oh wonderful world. Hey, oh. La 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 la. Hey, oh. Wonderful. La 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 la. Oh.
I might be too taboo. Huh. I have tried to be a girl with good intentions, proud to speak my heart without any pretensions. My words will never ever leave you in doubt. I don't see what all the fuss is about. Oops, did I say something I shouldn't have? You see, I'm not that nice. Should I apologize? Oops, did I do something I shouldn't have? Did I embarrass you? Do something too taboo? I didn't know I had to watch my tongue. Now you know that I'm a loaded gun. Ooh, it might be true. I'm too taboo. I don't kiss and tell. Don't need no false attention. No. So why you look at me with that suspicious apprehension? Tell me,
And we're back. Gambit Esports with an impressive start to the half. Illuminar on the back foot will look to pedal it back. Can they actually get there? I'm Teet. I'm joined by the ever-present Michael, Yumi, Cassidy.
Wow.
Michael, Illuminar's already taken up mid control.
Yeah, good start already, but getting picked off by Inters, Hobbit as well finding a frag, and they don't clear out Nafany. Not a good sign here for Illuminar. A 2-on-4 that they have to try and make work. All the utility is already down, and they don't have the site. There's a couple players still on B, and now with Mal's gone, with it. Oh, Reeds is still trying to make it a little interesting, but eventually Axile gets it under control. Pistol round 1 here for Gambit. That needed to be, I think, the start for Illuminar to get more rounds registered. I think Gambit may just run away with this one as well.
Well, I can't say I disagree with you.
Yeah, it do be like that sometimes, unfortunately. Yeah. At the moment, it's just Gambit just seem in much better form. They're hitting a lot more critical shots in the clutch, I think is the big thing as well.
It is slightly problematic, yeah, when you're up 5v2 on Illuminar and then you still let it go down to a 1v1 at times. It's one of those days that you're having where nothing seems to be going right. Now, Mouse, he'd like to change that with an eagle shot or 2 or 3 or 4. But there are very few opportunities for him to exercise. Now, let's not forget Illuminar. Ooh, okay, I like that. Nafany taken down by Mouse early on, and that gives them a bit of an entry point into the B-bomb site. Hobbit, realizing this, will start to rotate, and you can see the A site players are also actually squeezing slightly closer together. So rotation points are ready. It all comes down to how many kills Inters can find and how... Oh, beautiful kill from Hobbit. Down in mid, catches the player mid-air as well while he was jumping. But Inters finding a way, gets one, gets two, and he's done it. That's his job done with Hobbit assisting from the back line to ensure Reeds is good for 1. But Gambit are not going to give this round up. Not too easily, at least. Reeds still needs 2 more kills. No Kevlar either, so that M4 is all the more deadly. And he's playing the right angle. He's playing the green boxes. He waits for them to come in, but can he find anything?
Oh, just a hairline spotted out. Reed spams to 3 HP, and Axile finishes off the job. They have a kit, so no real problems. And that's a pretty expensive round for Gambit, considering that Illuminar just came in with a bit of a half buy.
True. That is a fairly successful round from the Polish side.
All things considered.
Yeah. I mean, they could even buy up an AWP for snacks, which is the important point.
The big thing is, though, I mean, you look at rounds like that, things that could have gone further, especially when you're behind like this, unless this gun round starts to get a bit more momentum for Illuminar, then maybe the tone can change, but Gambit should feel like they're in control, even if they feel like they're on worse weaponry in the first gun round.
Well, Snacks finds the first kill at the very least. Shiro doesn't quite win that duel out with inferior weaponry. Okay, Nafany and Hobbit both come through with a couple of quick ones. And it's back down to a 3v3. So, although some advantage was found by Illuminar, they are unfortunately quick to forfeit. Now, Inters does not have a smoke this time over, so his job will be slightly more difficult. But the problem is, if you look at Gambit, they have a player who's circled in all the way from T-spawn and has all that information. Inters, this angle is perfect. Gets the first, looks to re-peek, but doesn't get the opportunity. And now comes out the eventual pincer. Hobbit through the smoke, through the wall, through the skull of Riyadh.
And being approached in from behind, Axile finishes off the job. Mao's realizing a little too late that that's where the steps were coming from. So a 13th for Gambit. Illuminar do get stopped in their tracks in the tunnels. And just the back and forth trades, even with them finding an opening pick on Snacks on the AWP, it just wasn't enough of an advantage for them to actually capitalize on that fact. That's a knockdown back to pistols.
Molotov deep catwalk comes through. That's actually quite important as Snacks has been tagged up heavily by it while he's trying to go through. Then he's taken down by Hobbit. And Nafany takes advantage of that information to now aggress himself. This is what we wanted to see from Illuminar, but Shiro and company are delivering for us time and time again. Even so, though, the Tech-9s have proved to be lethal, and Nafany is as well. Gets one, peeks out, makes it 2. And again, Michael, you said it. You get to a clutch and Gambit, they just make it work.
Yeah, and you can see the reactions are just so wildly different here from Gambit. Every time that they're meeting a bit of presence, they understand that Illuminar are in a position where they can't feel too confident in their individual capacity, and so trading has to be a bit more of an emphasis. So they don't have players watching the flank, and Gambit are capitalizing on all that additional space. The lack of maybe confidence coming into some of these duels. Oh, talk about confidence. PHR, a fast-footed play out towards long, but
Oh,
the
no.
Molotovs, the nade combo out towards the long tunnel works wonders. Snacks trying to compensate, bring things back. They found a man advantage. Now a 3-on-2 with control over long. And Gambit, they're trying to make these rotations, but there's a lurker in their midst.
And Shiro realizes it. Veggie's taken down, and it immediately removes the advantage before, and this is the key point, before Illuminar is even able to get onto the bomb side or cross. They do have 2 smokes, but using them is going to be very expensive. Shiro and Inters both will, however, be blocked off, and that's one very important point. Shiro did not choose to go in from short. That's a great nade, however. And fantastic damage dealt. Molotov and a second nade as well. They're just throwing everything and the kitchen sink at them. Gambit Esports maybe even recovered an AK. So this retake is very much on.
Yeah, Shiro not very confident in having the AWP for the retake, wanting to be a bit faster paced with it. The flashes, they sail out, creating a bit more room as Inters, but trapped in at the boxes. They're not able to support one another. Finally, Snacks contributes, and Shiro, unable to get the trade, tagged to low HP, will instead go to save that AWP that he dropped in favor of going for the retake. And Gambit, they won't get themselves to 15. They stay a little bit further away as Illuminar get their first on this T side.
And that's despite some fantastic utility damage being used to take down 2 players from Illuminar. It all comes down to Snacks winning the duel against a player inside a smoke, and Shiro being forced to wait because of Veggie. Remember, Veggie gets taken down there, yes, but if Shiro has the freedom to rotate over towards that A bomb site earlier on, he can get boosted up, he can get anything's possible at that point. Shiro's actually in position to use the AWP before the bomb's planted. And that's a very different situation. So Illuminar, good round coming out from them. They get the early advantage and capitalize for once. So always happy to see that. But there is a timeout being called, presumably from Gambit. I'm sure Ruben will let us know in our ear in just a second. But yeah,
It is from
It is a
Gambit,
CT
yes.
side time. Okay.
So just taking a second to see if they can slow Illuminar down. Again, the same response we saw on Mirage as well, when as soon as Illuminar got one round, answer back with a timeout. It's like, no. Hold the phone. Hit a little speed bump. They've got the AWP, of course, saved over on Shiro, so thinking about a good plan of attack for him. But it's a fast play towards long here for Illuminar. And Gambit, they weren't in position, so they weren't going to get caught off guard. But Hobbit, he has a very low HP as he almost falls.
Hobbit? What are you thinking, Hobbit? Oh dear. PHR is leading the charge forward. Smoke goes out in front of him, and as it does, it's into considering whether it's worthwhile pushing through it. Shiro's taken down. Oh, that's beautiful. PHR still going, but Intas will get the kill. The AWP is recoverable, and Nafany will indeed pick it up. The question is he willing to use it by peeking out aggressively? That's what he needs to do to find them. But Snacks, he's going to be found out himself. There's a CT play behind him, in front of him. He gets the first, looking for the second. Will be able to connect. And that should be it. Sure, Nafany and Inters have some rifles, but those are rifles to save, if I've ever seen them.
Yeah, worthwhile investments to hold on to. The stock will rise, I'm sure. But Snacks may look for a bit of an explore. See if he can take these weapons down. He did a really good job of securing that pathway, making sure the rotations couldn't go towards that B site, and he just secures that even further as that bomb gets planted. So no real surprises. I think they've now realized that the game plan is a bit different here from Gambit. Even with that lead, they're not just going to throw themselves at it, thinking that they can perform masterful heroics against the odds. I wouldn't put it past them.
Well, I'm still very curious to see how Illuminar continues this forward, because, look, at the end of the day, it's good that they're getting a few rounds, but they have to get double digits. That's when you start to sweat if you're Gambit. The second Illuminar hits 10, completely different ball game there and then. Now, the one good thing for them is that their economy is slightly built up. So even if Gambit Youngsters, dear God, why do I keep doing this, Michael?
Yeah, I know.
Why?
It just becomes such a. It's after
Yeah.
so long being under that Gambit Youngsters sort of name. It's so hard to get it out of the. If they changed organizations, it almost would have been easier.
Yeah,
But
yeah. It's also because like we've been casting them specifically for like 6 months now under that particular name. So
Yeah.
yeah. Even so, point being, that Illuminar's in a great spot, even if Gambit gets one round. However, Gambit not like this. Hobbit gets an aggressive, gets a lot of damage and a kill, which means Shiro on the AWP can still come through. That's a shoulder peak, so he's not been spotted out completely. And Snacks, however, has used that time to his advantage and back off. Now, where is Inters is my question. It seems like he's on the B bomb side. So the AK-47 could still chime into fruition.
I have to say, in general, I think Illuminar has been doing a better job on the CT and T side, respectively, of taking long control. That seems to be a real problem area for Gambit. And so maybe that's something that's further exploited. This time we actually see them aggress through middle instead, but that was in favor of the CT side having a bit more presence towards that long position. There is a timing that they're hoping to take, but Axel does get found out. Again, it's these two rifles, the AWP and AK, that linger here for Gambit. And they're committed to either site, so no real safe passage for either of these Illuminar squads. And PHR, he was just investigating, see if he could find where Inters was positioned. But this actually rings the alarm bells here for Gambit.
Question is, does Veggie use that Molotov, or will Shiro be allowed to re-peek out again? He gets the burst as a bomb drop, re-peeks in, Shiro gets him one more, and now he's getting aggressive. He realizes Snacks is coming in from short. There's 12 seconds, there's no way. Oh my God, that's so greedy, not using the Molotov, leaving it for the post plant. So greedy. That's a worst possible way to lose a round for Illuminar.
Yeah, and it puts them in a really dicey spot because that's 15 now for Gambit. In a round where it was only those two players remaining, a 2-on-4, Inters just finding that kill on B, it causes a bit of panic in the Illuminar camp. I think maybe they'd even expected that they would have doubled up just to save those weapons because of the odds. But they were so split up, so segmented, that wasn't even a possibility. So they fall right into kind of a trap. But like you said, it was greedy.
Well, right now that nade is big boy, and Riat is brought down. 3 players over towards the B bomb site, going in quickly. They're trying to fake out long control, but PHR will follow him into the grave. Nafany taking more and more, and sure, Snacks is good for one, but Inters peeks out late, and we'll find another. Veggie left alone in a 1 versus 4, and something tells me this is over. Gambit Youngsters will win their inaugural series on the DreamHack Open November, and what a way to do it as well.
Yeah, Gambit Esports win the inaugural best of 3. It's a tricky situation. We fall into the trap so often. Just the addition of Hobbit is enough to mature them a significant portion, but a great series from them overall. We came in with a bit more of a confidence towards them. Illuminar have been kind of shaky of late, sort of up down, whereas Gambit are sort of riding that high. Talk about their best of 3 series streak that they're on. I think that makes 13 in a row, and I mean you can see why they seem to be getting good production out of players like Hobbit, Nafany. We talk about Axile. Shiro actually wasn't as big a factor as some of previous series we've seen him in, but that threat is always there in the backlines. That, I mean, if you were there, this could have been a much bigger blowout for Gambit. They just seem to be hitting all their shots on all their respective separate elements.
And look, I am critical of Shiro from time to time, especially on my Twitter, but I have to say, on Dust too, although he wasn't there the same way numerically, which you might want to hope, even numbers-wise, he wasn't doing terribly, but more than anything else, in the clutches, he was so good. And this was something we were talking about again and again, which is that how many times have we seen a 4 versus 2, a 5 versus 3, a 5 versus 2 converted down to a clutch situation, which should have never been there for Illuminar. You know, man advantages are great to get on a map like Dust 2, but only if you're able to follow through. And that's where Shiro was more often than not the X factor, where Axel wasn't stepping up the same way he did in Mirage. He was still decent, he was still stable, but Shiro, that was a fantastic few rounds coming out from him, letting that be significantly more convincing. Otherwise, I could have seen Illuminar making double digits very easily, maybe even making a run for things.
And I think Illuminar definitely recognized that maybe they weren't hitting the same level of form as some of these Gambit players, and so you could see that they were playing very reserved, some really tough mid-round decisions to have made. We actually harped a bit on how Hobbit's, or rather Gambit's, late-round decision-making seemed to be maybe a little risky at times, but certainly working out to read what Illuminar were up to, whereas it felt like they were going for more guesswork on the Illuminar side. And I think that really does come back to bite you in the long term if you're not confident in just making a decision outright.
Indeed. Well, listen, Gambit will be facing off versus the winner of Nemiga versus Kova later on. We are going to go to a break before we can have Nemiga and Kova come and grace our servers. We'll be back in about, I'd say about 48 minutes or so. So make sure you're tuning in again then for our second series of the day. This has been Tea Time. With me was Michael. I'm not quite sure which side he's on, so I'm going to point to both sides because one of them will be true at the very least. Okay, so I've been told he's over here. So you know what? There you go. And with that being said, I'm going to have to call it a break. We'll be back in just about 50 minutes, and we'll be back with Nemiga versus Kova. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere.